You just heard from Katie, so she's another of the staff member. And we have one other staff member, Joel, who couldn't be here tonight. So we're a small place, you know, about 30 kids and the 3 staff people. At PLC, we've been supporting young people and their families to take control of their life and educations. And we've been around for 11 years now. Every year I have to like bump up the number, 11 now. We've really seen firsthand how flexible, interest-based education in a welcoming community like at PLC can be just utterly life-changing for some kids. You know, all members at PLC are homeschoolers, and this is the legal mechanism to allow young people and their families to personalize the educational choices for the particular individual. So all homeschoolers get to do that. But when you combine that with PLC, you also get included opportunities for classes, a community of teens, and all of the kids at PLC have worked with one of the staff in one-on-one mentoring. And so we meet with kids once a week to sort of help, you know, talk about the educational choices and reflect on how things are going. We host a panel of teens and young adults twice a year to share sort of the non-traditional educational paths. And we like to highlight both sort of the opportunity for the young person to self-direct their education during their middle and high school years, but also some of the pathways post-high school. So we have a really wonderful panel tonight. So thank you guys for taking the time to come out and give your time tonight to share with us. And this is a real highlight for me. You know, these are young people I've worked with over the years, and it's wonderful to hear your thoughts and reflections on your journey, as well as your goals and aspirations for the future. Super appreciate you being here. All right, so we're going to work through our panel one at a time and offer them an opportunity to sort of talk about their experience, and as Katie said, we'll put questions. You can put questions in the chat, and we'll have time, you know, after that to answer any questions and to talk more informally. So, so Gabby, you okay with going first?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, excellent.
So,
all right, so Gabby's going to go first.
So as Allison said, my name is Gabby, and I've going to PLC for, I think this is my second or third year.
Your third year, yeah. The
My
first year
third
was a
year.
partial year, yeah.
Yeah. So as you can tell, I've been here for 3 years, and I've absolutely loved the program. My homeschooling experience, I haven't gone to public school, so I started homeschooling literally from like preschool. My mom sent me to a preschool where the teacher did everything. She taught us everything from math, English to history, and it was a really good start just to learning things, because it helped pique my interest into subjects and what I might want to do when I grow up, even though like I had no clue really. And it was a really good experience from there. And from that time, I've had other tutors and co-ops that I've gone to. And while they were good, they were only really offering like 1 to 2 classes, and the classes usually stayed the same throughout the years. But it still offered me room to grow and really find out what I liked and what I didn't like about homeschooling, and how I could really learn anything I wanted. And it put me on the path of self-directed learning. So from there, it was probably about 3-4 years ago where I was looking for my next option for high school. I'm currently 16, turning 17. And when I was about 13, about to go into high school at 14, me and my mom were discussing options, because while yes, the co-ops I've been going to was good, I needed a broader range of programs. And we personally knew Miss Allison from years ago, when my brothers used to do Boy Scouts. And from there, she's been telling us about PLC for all of these years. And we thought it would be a great option to join, because between PLC and maybe going to public school, PLC was the much better option for me. I was used to smaller classes and just like smaller learning settings. So it would be better if I could have gone to PLC, which ended up happening, luckily. And with PLC, I've been able to learn so many new things I would have never got the chance or experience to learn otherwise. My first year at PLC, I took a psychology class and I fell absolutely in love. And that's just one of the many things they helped expose me to and help me realize, hey, there's a lot of different things that you could do, or a lot of different things that you can learn, especially by yourself. So with that, it's kind of just cultivated how I learn and everything that I do to learn. And like the mentoring program has helped me so much through everything, helped me keep on track with learning when sometimes I get distracted or veer off course with what I want to do. And it's just been so helpful to keep me pushing going, and now hopefully looking towards colleges and what I can do in the future and how that's going to work.
Good. Well, thank you. Thank you, Gabby. Really, really appreciate that. All right. Next up is Naveen.
Hello. So I've been going to public school, or I was going to public school up until the 10th grade. This is my third year in PLC. So I switched at 10th grade, did half a year, and now I'm in what's basically my senior year. So basically the whole time I was in public school, I wasn't really, either I felt that the pace was too fast and I was confused, or it was too slow and I would get really bored in the class. So, one day my mom was like, well, there's like other options and stuff. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, well, like other schools. So I was thinking, oh, like, like a private school or something. And then she told me about, this school a friend recommended it to her. And I went for a visit and I was like, okay, yeah, I think I really like this. Like, even though, I was pretty opposed at the beginning. I was like, well, like, I don't really want to go to a different school. Like, I never really thought about it. But, upon visiting, I was like, oh, okay, I think this would actually be really cool. The first year I was there, I actually, I did like my math by myself, essentially. I self-studied it. I met with someone once a week though for just to like make sure I was like staying on track and stuff. And then I went to take 2 college classes in Calc 1 and 2 at the local community college. Which, if you want to do like an equivalent to like an AP class, it's like that. When I was in public school, I really thought, I was like pretty lazy and stuff. Thought I didn't really have self-motivation. But when I went to PLC, there was like, a lot of responsibility, and when that responsibility came, it's like inside of you, there is like the self-motivation that you have, which I found like really empowering to realize that I had that. And it's been like having me able to like, drive myself to do things. Right now I'm in the college application process. I thought it would be a lot more like, like because like it's like such an alternative path, yeah, it'd be so much different, but it's really not. It's it wasn't very hard to apply, more than it should be. But yeah, so in the future I hope to go to college and like I'm thinking like computer engineering field, computer science maybe. And yeah, I'll see what I do from there.
Yeah, nice. Thank you, Naveen. Thank you. That's helpful. All right, and next up is Isabella.
Hi, so I'm Isabella, as Allison said. I attended the Princeton Learning Cooperative for the majority of my 7th grade year and then all of my 8th grade year. and I'm currently a sophomore at Rowan University. So starting very young, my parents knew that we'd probably end up doing some sort of alternative learning option because me and my brother are both dyslexic, and my dad was also dyslexic, so he had a lot of trouble in traditional schooling options. So originally I was in a Montessori-based charter school, and I did that from kindergarten up through the beginning of my 7th grade year. And in the beginning, it was really great. It was very hands-on and everything kind of my parents wanted in an education for their children. But the school became very focused on prepping kids for standardized testing because that's how, funding was allotted. And as the focus of the school kind of shifted towards that, the classes became much more mundane and kind of just process and not interesting. I'd already skipped ahead many grades in the math classes, and the rest of the classes we weren't doing anything. We were just kind of going through these workshop sheets to like prep for the tests, and that was it. So in the beginning of my 7th grade year, I dropped out of, traditional, well, not traditional, but a public school, and started looking for different options. And we kind of floated around a few different co-ops and kind of more tutor-based learnings, and we ended up finding the Princeton Learning Cooperative. And that presented itself as a really good option because my household has always been very project-based, and we went to maker fairs and did all these things. So I kind of already had a little bit of the self-directed learning thing going, but the Princeton Learning Cooperative kind of helped me focus that into what I wanted to do. So at PLC, I chose to kind of pursue a lot of math-based things and also strengthen writing-based things, which is what I struggled with. So I worked a lot with Katie one-on-one with writing stuff. And then I had a personal tutor that I worked on with math stuff. And I got through many years of math in the 2 years that I was at PLC. And another thing to add is I was a circus performer. So I trained up to 15 hours a week doing that. And the Princeton Learning Cooperative kind of gave me an opportunity to do all the schooling that I wanted, but also have time to train and focus on that and, extracurricular activities. So after I finished my 8th grade year, I kind of felt like I had figured out how I learned and kind of figured out how to do that for myself. And I moved towards taking community college classes. And so I started that at the end of my 8th grade year while I was still at PLC and had kind of the support of the community there. And when that went well, I transitioned to doing community college classes full time. So I left the Learning Cooperative and kind of started doing that. And I did 3 years of community college classes. And I think I left with 80 credits going into my freshman year of college. So I kind of had a lot of, stuff when I applied to college. And that went really well. I ended up going to Rowan University in their engineering school with a full academic scholarship. And I'm currently studying, I'm majoring in electrical and computer engineering as well as mathematics, and I'm minoring in mechanical engineering and computer science, and I've completed my minor. So yeah, that's kind of where I ended up. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you. Yeah. So can you say I'll save my questions. Anyway, thank you. All right. Anybody have any questions for our panelists? Anybody have any thoughts? You could either put them in the chat. We're small. You could probably ask them directly as well. Go ahead,
I have a question. Isabella, did you find that your experience as a self-directed learner had any positive or negative, like advantages or disadvantages in like the college classroom, like the skills that you took with you? Did you feel like you were missing anything? Do you feel like you had things that, perhaps other college students didn't have? Yeah. Both in your community college and schooling now.
So a big part of the reason that I chose to go to kind of the community college and not just swapping over to like a high school or something when I started high school was that my mom is a community college professor, and she found that her students, even the ones who went to like, you know, fancy private high schools or whatever, didn't have the skills they needed in a college classroom, right? Like they were very used to being told what to do, going through the steps, you know, all that stuff, but couldn't do anything on their own, which is what all, like, that's all you do in college, you know what I mean? You're given things you kind of have to do, and then you have to figure them out, right? So she knew that this kind of traditional high school setup doesn't prepare everyone for college. And that was kind of the motivation to not go to high school. I found that I was prepared for the most part, other than being a horrible procrastinator, but I don't think that would have changed if I went to high school. But I knew how to learn, and I knew if I needed help, where to reach out and how to find it, and also how to research things on my own and figure things out, you know, with the internet and books and all that stuff. So I didn't feel like I had any significant disadvantages compared to other students. Yeah, I just felt prepared and ready, and anything I needed to figure out, I could, because I kind of felt like I assembled that toolbox of how to gather information and, you know, figure things out.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's such a great answer. Yeah. So I think we've really seen how that's the case for a lot of kids. We've had many, you know, over 11 years, we've had many kids leave PLC and move on to community college and four-year college, and they've all made the transition surprisingly easily. I even have a story of one young woman I worked with who took community college classes during her high school years. So all of the community colleges allow kids to do that. So during high school, anybody who's, you know, not yet graduated can be part of sort of an early college program at a community college. So all the ones in New Jersey, really all over the country, do this. And so she was taking some classes, and things didn't go very well for her. You know, it was a struggle. So it wasn't that she couldn't do the material. It was just like the decision making and how to proceed and how to be independent and everything. And she just wasn't understanding if she thought she was failing, and she clearly wasn't failing. And then she dropped the class, and, you know, there was all this, you know, struggle. And she got to college, to a four-year college, and she completely thrived. Right. And so it helped her get through so you probably had, Isabella, some mess ups, you know, like when you were at community college and you like sorted them out and got it sorted. I know Naveen had some mess ups in his community college classes. And so perhaps we'll hand it over to Naveen to tell us about his mess ups. But it offers an opportunity to do it in more of a safe space. Right. So you do it during high school, and you have time to focus on your community college class because you're not doing it on top of high school. So kids who are in a more traditional classroom have to do it on top of high school, where kids who are homeschooled can like rearrange things so they can offer the amount of focus that they want on these classes. So I don't know, Naveen, can you tell a little bit about the mess up that occurred for you?
I had a little bit of a horror story for my latest class that I took, which is finally over pretty recently. The first one I took went, like, you know, really well. This one was fully online, and I did the first assignment like the day it was due, but that was one day after the withdraw like deadline, so I ended up getting withdrawn from the class. And I didn't find out about that until a week later because I wasn't really in the habit of checking email at all. It's something I learned to do now, which I do pretty often. So I talked to the professor, and he's like, well, you know, if you can do this, like if you could do the stuff up to the test, like then, you know, you can like, you know, I'll see what I can do. I'll talk to the dean. I'll see if I can put you back in the class. So, you know, I did all the work. I wrote him like one more time. I didn't really get a response at all. So, you know, it was coming up pretty close to the test, so I wrote him again, and I didn't get anything, so I decided to call. Well, actually, first what happened was two really conflicting things happened. I said I was like I could access all the stuff, which I couldn't access before, like all the lectures and stuff. And then I also got like an email saying that the class was refunded. So I was really confused. So I decided to call up the bursar's office, and they basically said, we have no clue what's going on here. Like, you should call admissions. So I called the admissions, and after like a while, the lady said, oh, it appears you're in the class, but it did get refunded. We're not sure how this happened, but if you just, repay it, then you should be fine. So that ended up going all right. And everything was okay. Then I had another bit of a disaster when I have no clue what happened in this situation, but there was this test that I kept trying to take, and it just wouldn't let me, like the password wasn't right or something like that. Because there's software that like records you when you do it for like online classes. So it has to put like a password in for the test, and it like wasn't right. So I spent like 40 minutes on like customer service with them, and so then I emailed the professor, and he was like, okay, it's extended to next week. And I was like, well, that doesn't really help me too much, but thank you. So I tried to take it the next week, and it still didn't work. So I emailed him, and I didn't get much of a response. I didn't get a response actually at all. And then I saw the due date was like a month later. So I was really confused. I tried to take it again. I emailed the professor another transcript of a chat I had with the customer service, and finally it was able to be taken, and I took it. And I was studying the whole time, so I guess I probably did better than I would have on if I just took it the first day. So I guess it was a good thing.
Yeah. But and what you can really notice in Naveen's story is like how he really had to like work through those. And notice he was doing all of the calling, right? There were all these calls and emails that had to be made, and it really helps. And so for kids, for Naveen, that was pretty straightforward. He felt comfortable to pretty much do that without too much help from us. But for a young person where that's not, something that they can do, we're going to be there. So, I'm Naveen's mentor. And so each week he was telling me what was going on and what he was doing. And I was like, exactly, carry on, right? But if he hadn't, he would have had the support. Because I seen Isabella shaking her head. Like, have you had some struggles in college?
Yeah, and I think kind of from the perspective of being in college now, but having the experiences of taking community colleges classes before getting there, it's really, really nice to know how to deal with tricky professors, know how to reach out to professors for help, and not have kind of the pressures of, if this class goes poorly because the professor won't respond to my email and I can't take the test or something like that, like you're not going to fall out of sequence of your major, your GPA is not wrecked, like you have kind of this extra buffer when taking classes earlier, because I've had my fair share of tricky professors, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
So have I.
Yeah.
So
this
Because
they're
I'm in
definitely out
community
there.
college right now.
Yeah, so
I've
this is
had
Parlin.
problems.
She's an alumni from PLC, so
Nice.
she's just joining us tonight, and goes to Brookdale. So what we have found is that having the opportunity to do it during your high school years can be a nice. It can be very rewarding for kids. And sometimes it's more of a struggle than maybe a reward, but it pays off in the end. So that's nice. I know Gabby's looking forward to doing a class. She's waiting until it's in person though, because she wants to do a lab class. That's the thing she wants to do the most. So anyway, yeah. Any other questions people have?
Do you know about what your distribution is in terms of age across your group? Like, are there more on the younger end, more on the older, or pretty even?
We're pretty even right now. I do keep the distribution, and I calculated it not too long ago. Usually we're smaller on the end, so our age distribution is 11 to 19. We have a boy who's going to turn 19 this year, so there'll just be one of the 19-year-olds. But typically we only have, you know, 1 or 2 11 and 12-year-olds. This year we have a few more of those, so it's a little flatter. Typically we would see more, the most would be 14, 15, 16-year-olds would be sort of the largest group. But this year it's pretty flat. And so there's some of all the ages, which is nice. And except for the 19, so only the one that will be. Yeah, so that's a good question. And our gender split, you know, it varies quite a bit. As you can imagine, we have 30 kids, and so we don't, you know, we don't reach out for a particular gender. So it's just really whoever comes along, and it stays pretty well balanced. Surprisingly, it went to 70, close to 70-30 one year, and that was surprising. And but it's back closer to 50-50, and so it stays reasonably balanced. Any other questions?
For all the panelists, is there anything that like you feel like or wonder if you're missing out on, you know, from conventional school?
Yeah, it's always a good question.
Because I think that's sometimes the worry for both kids and parents.
Yeah. Anything? Anybody want to go first? Anybody have thoughts?
I could go first because
Right.
I've seen like both sides of it, and high school isn't really that great, you know. Aside from like, you know, like there's a lot more people, like, you know, there isn't really much difference. And I feel like it's honestly it's better to like have less people because you end up like making friends with like people you don't normally make friends with, and those are like a lot like cooler, like, you know, friendships you have because, you know, it wouldn't be something like you normally do, but like, you know, you know.
Yeah. Thank you.
I know for me, I struggled a lot kind of when I went towards this more self-directed path and was in like community college classes. It was always a thing. Like I wanted to, all my friends were in high school, they were making new friends, and I wanted to kind of have this more social life where, you know, I just went to school, I had my friends there, I wasn't in a classroom with people who were like 4 years older than me, you know. But, you know, kind of talking to those people now, you know, not being in high school and reflecting back on it, you do avoid a lot of the drama and the kind of weird social structures and stuff like that. It's, you know, and I did learn to make friends in the community college setting, and I think it made me a lot more open to just being friends with anyone and not, you know, I saw a lot of people move to college and make friends with people who are just like their high school friends, you know what I mean? And at PLC, I loved having the smaller group and just becoming very close and knowing everyone. Yeah. So it is kind of like a grass is always greener situation. Like it looks great on the, you know, other end, but now I have my friends tell me, oh, I wish I did something like you know, like you had all these credits going to school, you didn't have to deal with any of the drama or the cliques or any of that, you know. So there's ups and downs, and you just kind of have to find what works with you.
Yeah. I think we lost Gabby. Hopefully she'll be back. We'll catch her up on that question. Yeah.
In terms of mentoring and planning, are the students sort of split among the 3 staff members in that regard?
They are.
And maybe if any of you are willing to talk about how that, if that planning helped you or if it is still helpful?
Yeah. Anybody want to go first? Well, it's between Isabella and Naveen.
The planning definitely did help me. So I had someone named Justin my first year, and then Katie my second year. And it definitely, there's a lot of options at PLC, right? You have a bunch of classes, you can kind of request for certain classes to be brought in, you can work on things with your mentor, you can go to community college classes, right? There's all these things. So having a mentor definitely helped me narrow down what I really wanted to focus on and how to delegate my time, because I'm the type of person who wants to do a little bit of everything, right? So figuring out what I want to focus on is a big thing. And also having a mentor helped me feel more confident in applying to things. Like when I was at PLC, I think I applied to like an engineering camp or something. Stuff like that that I don't know if I'd typically go for. I think having a mentor really encouraged me and made me feel more confident doing those things.
I think yeah, it's definitely like it's a lot of it's really great encouragement for whatever you want to do. Like you know, I asked Allison to encourage me to like, you know, like go to some classes or something. You know, and it just works out really well. And it's like a lot of great advice you get too.
Yeah, that's nice. And even though kids are assigned one person, the other staff are there as well, right? And so sometimes we find that it's, you know, a young person will have, you know, one of us as a mentor, but yet spend some significant time with another staff member, you know, working on something else. That could be nice. One thing I can say that Naveen and I worked on a lot is documenting what he did in high school. So Naveen knew pretty well from the get-go that you wanted to apply to four-year college when you were done your high school years. And you know, so we started sort of keeping track of things right when Naveen joined. And sort of, we have a system, we call it the bucket system, where we create, you know, we take all the topics of the kinds of classes that kids would do in high school, and then we think about all the things that the person is doing, all the classes they're doing at PLC, and we fit them into the buckets, right? So for Naveen, I'm trying to think if you had any like combined buckets where you took more than one class and put them in. I can't think of any, even though we're working so intensely on your transcript. I don't know it.
I think just for like art classes,
Yeah.
like all the art classes I took, and also like writing classes too.
Yeah, exactly. So the writing, yeah, exactly. So Naveen enjoys reading, and so had read a bunch of things on his own. So that would be English, but then doing a writing class, that would be English as well. And so we put those together. And then Naveen did a whole lot of different art classes, and we put them all together really in something we called, I think, Art Studio, perhaps. I'm not remembering
Something
exactly.
like that, I think.
Yeah, something like that. And so we offer this narrative transcript when you apply to college. So it has the list of all the classes that they did, you know, in sort of a transcripty looking thing. So the name of the class and, you know, the grade and the credits and things. And then below that, we write about each of the, sort of in a narrative style, each of the classes that that person did in their high school years and what was included in that, so that the admissions people can really get a better sense of what, you know, English 4 looked like, you know, because it's not a traditional high school class. Yeah, so that's been good. So Gabby's back. Hi, Gabby. Yay. Yeah, so let me think. The question when you dropped off was what is it? Is there anything that you feel like you missed out on by doing sort of schooling and PLC, self-directed educational path?
There's nothing I feel like I missed out on since I was homeschooled basically my entire life. I've never been to a public school or a private school. I feel like PLC was really a good social interaction for me since before, as I said, I went to a few co-ops, but nothing really big. Like the most we had was like 10 kids at a time. So PLC was a really good environment for me to really start meeting people, and I've made a lot of great friendships from it. So.
Yeah, nice. So there's nothing your brothers did in high school that you're like, oh, I wish I had that opportunity.
I mean, I still get to go to a prom like my brothers did, except I've gone to maybe like 3 or 4 proms already, since it's specifically for homeschoolers and you can go as long as you're homeschooled from like the age 14, you can go. So I didn't miss out on prom. Maybe like a high school party, but even then, like I'm not a big party person. I like my friend group and like the little parties we have. So no, nothing really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Are the social things that you do, are they mostly things that are planned within PLC, or are these you just make friends and so you just arrange things outside, or is it both, combination of both?
Anybody?
Is that question
Go
for
ahead.
me?
Go
I
ahead,
think
Gabby.
mostly for you. Yeah, you're right in the thick of it where I would be
Yeah.
sort of thinking about my girls. So yeah, I think I'm mostly, if you don't mind, I don't want to put you on the spot, but
Oh no, it's fine.
Yeah.
So PLC before Corona, we did like a lot of activities, especially on Fridays. Fridays would be our group activity day where we would plan a field trip basically every week, whether that was ice skating. We helped out at a food location, Allison. I forget what it's
Food
called.
pantry, yeah, arm in arm in
Yes,
Trenton.
food pantry.
Yeah.
I did that a couple times. We did aerial yoga, and that's a really good just like bonding stuff. So you get to know the people at PLC better. But outside of that, you do like you grow with these friendships, and then you want to hang out with these people more. So like on a weekend, I'll invite my close groups of friends to hang out at my house, or we might go to an arcade or something like that. So yeah, it's kind of both. PLC definitely does make an effort to get the community closer so you know people. And then once you get closer with everybody, you want to start hanging out and inviting them over to your house or going to the mall or something like that. I hope that answers your question.
And I know for me, like, you know, you make friends in school, and like sometimes after PLC, we'd like go hang out in Princeton and stuff. And it also seems like somehow, some way, every homeschooler knows every other homeschooler almost. Like I had a friend in my
Yeah.
town who had a group of friends that she was homeschooled with when she was younger, and they went to EQ'd, which is this other homeschool event that also happens in the PLC space. And so they knew the PLC people, and it's just like all the friend groups merged. So, you know, when I was hanging out with those people, sometimes PLC people were there. It's just like, it's the same as hanging out with friends in like a normal school environment. You become friends with these people, you invite them to things you go to, or hang out with them, or walk around towns with them. You know what I mean? You kind of form groups and connections and, you know, friends of friends, stuff like that.
Yeah. Anything you would add, Naveen?
Well, actually, I think some of the best friends I've ever made are from PLC. Like my two best friends are from PLC, and before Corona, like I would hang out with them like almost every day when I had time.
Yeah, yeah. And it came from doing some being in classes, but also, you know, doing some things outside of classes. One of the things the kids do a lot of is walking up to McCaffrey. So that it's about a mile away, 0.9 miles. And we're in the basement of the church, and it's a pretty easy walk, you know, up the street. There's sidewalks, and then you can walk through the back streets into the sort of the back of the shopping plaza. And McCaffrey's is a grocery store, so we always say just McCaffrey's, but it's really a whole shopping plaza that has restaurants and things. And it's a nice time. So kids will be like, oh, you know, like, oh, we don't have any classes or anything happening in this hour, and they have time enough to be able to walk up and back, and so create their own little social thing, you know, happening right there. So Parlin's going to add something in. Go ahead.
Sometimes people go to McCaffrey's before school. Like when I was going to PLC, you know, and like sometimes our carpool group would leave early, like a little earlier and leave earlier so that we could go to McCaffrey's on the way to school when, like, say my dad's dropping us off. And
Yeah.
my group, I mean, because me and my friends carpooled, so there was 4 of us kids and like one of my parents driving us typically. So
Yeah, that's nice. Thank you. Yeah.
McCaffrey's was definitely like a good way to form new friends also, because like, you know, if you needed lunch and people were going, they were going to be like, no, you can't walk with us. You know, like you're just going to somewhere that's, you know, open to everyone. So you kind of make friends that maybe like you usually don't hang out with, stuff like that, from just walking with them, talking.
Yeah. There's often like a great feel like that. I'm going up to McCaffrey's. Anybody want to go? Right. And so, you know, so we'll
Yeah.
offer.
Like I remember like my first week there, a couple people were heading to McCaffrey's and I didn't know the way, and they automatically invited me. So it's also a really welcoming community if you're a little shy or if you just want to make some friends. Everybody was super nice my first week and throughout my entire time there.
Yeah. Thank you. Any other questions? Anything? Well, I could ask one. Is there anything that that you think you would do differently, looking back to what's already happened? Anything you wish was you would have made a different choice, even if it's a very specific thing. Sometimes that can, you know, sort of lead to a larger thinking on something. Anybody? Any thoughts? It's a hard question. I'm not so sure. Oh, Parlin has one. Go ahead, Parlin.
This was before PLC, but I would say probably not having tried those 2 days of middle school because they weren't worth it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I didn't have to do that because like when we were doing the homeschool thing at my house, you know, before I was going PLC, like in middle school age, like when me and those friends were middle school age, then I was like, you know what, I want to actually try middle school. But I wasn't really middle school. I was like, I want to try public school. And I tried to get into the elementary school in my grandma's neighborhood and stuff, but they said that even though I was like a year old for it, and they said, no, you can't, you're too old. So they made me do the middle school. So I tried it, but it was just the first 2 half days, and I was like, yeah, no, I can't do this.
Yeah.
So then I went back to the thing at my house.
Yeah. Yeah, but you learned something. So, and now you know, like you tried it. So, yeah, agreed. You might have done it differently. So,
Yeah,
anybody
but I'm
else have
fine
any
in
thoughts?
college now.
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah,
like,
I know. Yeah,
it's different. Like college
yeah.
is different than that was.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Anything you guys would think?
Probably keeping better track of what I did. Like when I worked with my mentor, it was very helpful, and Katie, you did a great job of keeping track of what I was doing. But like before that, and just kind of like more specifically what I was doing in the classes, I wish I'd kept a more like consistent log, like every week, being like, hey, this is what I did. Because I personally didn't do that. So I kind of had like a grand overview that, you know, Katie, you helped me with, but definitely just being like, this is what I learned this week probably would have
Yeah.
been helpful when putting together resumes and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, for me, it would probably be like taking more classes before PLC because I'm behind in a few subjects like math, and I wish like before I started PLC, math was something I took more seriously.
Yeah. But there's time now, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. So
PLC has helped me catch up a lot.
yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And Gabby, not to put you on the spot again, but again, since you're sort of in the thick of it right now, I realize that with the academic part of PLC, that can take a lot of different forms, but I'm wondering how much of the academic part in terms of different courses or things that you're investigating, how much of that you do with other students and how much of that you do individually, you know, whether it's a course outside, or I know Isabella took a lot of dual enrollment courses, you know, like it's an individual online thing versus a course at PLC, just if you have a sense of how much of that is done individually and how much with other students.
So I only have one one-on-one class, and that's for math, but all my other classes are taught by the teachers, I guess we have at PLC. But like, I do a lot of research on my own. If I really like a subject like biology, I'll go dig deeper into the biology so I can learn more. So it's kinda, and then we also have student-led classes. So for the student-led classes, it's a lot of us bouncing off of each other to like dig deeper into what we want to learn. But I want to say a lot of it outside of like what the teacher is teaching us, I do on my own, and then if my friends have similar interests, then we'll look into it together.
Yeah. Anybody want to add to that? Yeah, so we offer a pretty wide range of classes at PLC and taught by Katie, Joel, and I. And then we have about 35 volunteers who work with kids. Some of those work one-on-one, a lot of math and writing, but there's other topics. Gabby, you also work with Sadia on sort of medical topics. Yeah. So we've been on break for a little while, so have to get back into things and be remembering. And yeah, so Gabby's, I think your interest is to do something health related. And so we found someone who's a doctor, but not currently practicing and wanted to volunteer. And so Gabby and Sadia have been spending a half an hour a week, talking about options and thinking about things. And yeah, and then so the volunteers do one-on-one things, and then a number of them teach classes, everything from like world history and philosophy to chemistry to physics and all kinds of things. We've had ukulele classes in the past. Really, everything's a possibility for our class. We're currently looking for a volunteer to teach dog training, and so the kids would really like that to be in person, which is challenging these days with COVID and everything. So we'll see what we can do, and we continue to work on it. We have every foreign language is a possibility to learn, so you're not really restricted to sort of the usual ones that they would have in high schools. So we have Spanish and French, but we also have Japanese, and we've had Latin in the past, and really just, I don't know. Katie, help me. Like, what
American
are all the
Sign Language.
Yes, American
I
Sign
was about to
Language.
say
Yeah.
ASL.
Yeah. So we have ASL. Yeah, we're currently looking for a teacher for that as well. But yeah, so we've had lots and lots of things.
Yeah, for me, it was super helpful to like kind of the more core classes. So like math and English, it was awesome to have the option to have a one-on-one person to work with, because I was very advanced in math, but kind of had some like word specific writing things I need to work through. But it was great to kind of have a more collaborative environment for like more creative and diverse classes like sign language or screenwriting, stuff like that, and woodworking. Those are awesome to have in a big group.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so Nadine asked a question. So how our coursework is offered now during COVID, and we have members who are fully online. We have members who are mostly online but come in sometimes, and we have members who come in pretty much all the time. And so a lot of the volunteers are remote. So our classes are this combination of different things. So for volunteers who are remote, even if you're in person, it's going to be a remote class, but you can find a space, in our PLC space. You can find a space to be logged in and participating in that. For Katie, Joel, and I, when we offer classes, we're typically offering it to some kids who are in person and a number of kids who are online. And so we're going to be, working with both of those as best we can. It's a little bit challenging, I have to say, to be a teacher, to be attending to both the in-person people. And I often don't get the tab quite right when I'm sharing my screen, and I have Georgia in my classes who helps me keep on the right tab. Yeah, because it's pretty challenging, but all the kids are helpful and understanding, and because we want it to be more than just perfunctory during COVID. So we want it to be interactive and fun. Yeah, and then the one-on-ones are mostly online, although there's a couple kids who do. There's one volunteer who wants to do them outside, and they're very committed. And so we set up the table and the whiteboard outside. It's math, and she comes in with her snow pants on for extra warm. And the kids she works with are all good with being outside, and so they're carrying on. And so they're they made it through December. So we'll see how they do in January and February. The snow was not a problem. And because we were closed that one day, and then we went on break, and it just worked out. We didn't have to deal with the snow. So we'll see. So we again, all of our classes are super organic, flexible. We just sort of go with what makes sense in the moment for who's there and who wants what. So the classes come from kids wanting certain things, and then we find a volunteer, and we're going to be or one of us to teach it, and we're just going to sort of go with the flow with that, right? And see how it works, and what does the volunteer want to do, what do the kids want to do, and sort of try and make a match for that. I don't know, do you guys want to add anything about classes that you've taken? Any particulars on a class?
I also think that it's awesome that because you kind of cover such a large range of classes between the mentors and the volunteers and stuff like that, you can kind of work with different people to see what fits best with you for what you're learning. So I think I went through like 2 or 3 people before finding, what worked for me for math. I worked with one of the old mentors, and then I was in a group setting, and then I kind of figured out that working one-on-one with this one tutor was like the way I could just chunk through Khan Academy. You know what I mean? So because there's a lot of options between the different people, you can kind of play around with it and see what works out.
Yeah.
Just for pre and post pandemic, a couple of questions. One is, how do you feel about the physical space that you have at the Learning Center in terms of, how much you enjoy being there and how it feels for you in terms of comfort level? And then secondly, I'm wondering if you've had to establish some kind of dispute resolution process, or whether everything is just pretty smooth there because it's a smaller group.
Yeah. So, all right. So talking about the space and then disputes. All right. Conflict. All right. So any thoughts on the space?
I can talk about the space. So the space is we have like one main big common room, which can fit basically everybody. And then we have the smaller side rooms that can still fit a lot of people, but the space is really fun. Like you have the art room where I hung out a lot during my first years. And then you kind of just like go around with your friends. You'll see some people just like running through rooms trying to like see where everybody is, or you'll see a group of people who like hanging out in like the common room, or what we call the big room, which is the second biggest room at the space. And I've made a lot of great memories in those rooms, whether that's a dance class that we had for some time last year. That was a fun class, or just hanging out with people. If it's a Friday and there's no field trips are happening, you might watch a movie. That was pretty fun.
Yeah. Anybody else? I mean, we're in a basement, so there is limited windows, so that, sometimes people point that out, and it's like, yes, there's not really much we can do about that. Any other thoughts on the space? Davina, Isabella?
I really like this space. Yeah, I don't see why they don't like no windows, because the lighting's good in there. Like regardless, we have good lighting.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Good.
I can't speak to COVID times, but pre-COVID times, the space worked really well because you have these larger common areas that can, hold large groups of people. Obviously not COVID, whatever. But it was nice to have a common area where lots of people were. You could always like start a game or start a puzzle or talk to people, but also have smaller rooms where, you can study quietly or kind of have personal space to work with your tutor or any of that stuff. So it was a nice kind of division of community and like private spaces.
Yeah. So yeah, we have this nice common room, which I think, it's really sort of a hallmark of this approach, right? So allowing sort of this freedom. So we don't hold classes in the common room, so kids are free to hang out and talk about it. So, you walk through the common room and it could be all kinds of subjects being debated or argued or just discussed, or, and it's like people are chiming in from all different places, and it could be really fun in that way. Or maybe we're playing a game or doing a puzzle. This is all non-COVID. During COVID, we are in person, and we have, they turned on some really good ventilation at the church did this. And so they had Princeton Air come out, and so they were able to measure all the rooms up against the CDC standards. And so we're using, there's only 2 rooms that we're not using, and those have sort of lower ventilation levels because they don't have a return register for the air. And so you could really hear it. So it's bringing in fresh air, and then it's bringing it out. And the furnace has the highest level of filter on it. And we keep our numbers low. So mostly we've got, since we weren't in the space to start in September, we were fully outside. But when we went back to the space in November, we've been a smaller group. And so not everyone's coming out all the time. And we haven't had to sort of limit when people come or don't come. It's just sort of worked itself out. So that's been nice. but if we had to, we'd figure it out. And we have like marked how many people could be in different rooms, and we have to wear a mask all the time. There's no eating inside. You have to eat outside. Am I forgetting? And of course, we're socially distanced, and that. And the kids do a really good job with that. So, yeah, it's a nice space, and it's cheery. Katie's done a lot of the painting, and has really it's nice. Yeah. And the other one is disputes. So I don't know, maybe you guys want to talk about, like, do we have a dispute process? Do you know if we do?
I think we have a dispute process that works really well. Like for example, so like when things do happen, like there aren't really like any big disputes, but like people like disagree on like a certain topic. And the way we talk about it is like we have like a weekly like full group meeting called collection, and we'll just bring it up there, and certain people just have their opinions on it, and we'll generally go with group consensus, or if anyone has new ideas on the topic that everyone likes.
Yeah. And
we'll try to have it so everyone's happy.
Yeah. So these would be discussion based. So these would be policy things. I don't even know that I'd want to call them disputes. They're just sort of like different opinions about how things should be in our group, and we're going to bring them to our all group meeting that we have once a week, and we're going to be discussing them and coming up with possible resolution. And if that doesn't work the way that we all want it to work, then we can bring it back again, and we can have some more discussion on it, and really like again come to some sort of consensus about how we want our lives to be together. And I would guess that we talk to all of the kids when they come in about our dispute process if there's a conflict between kids. So I don't know that you recollect it when I talked. Yeah, I'm Gabby and Naveen's mentor. I don't know if you recollect it when I told you about it, because it just doesn't come up. Like we haven't used it this year at all. Like, so there's just not conflicts that come up. We don't have rules.
That get to that level anyway,
yeah. That get to that level. There's disagreements for sure, sure. But, they don't get to the level where we really have to, do some sort of a mediation, bring kids into a room and like help them, like work through things.
I feel like at the most there ever is just like banter.
Yeah.
That, or we have like a discussion jar, which is anonymous. So if you feel like something isn't going the way you like, and you would like to change it, but you might be too shy to bring it up to your mentor, or you don't want to come out publicly and say, hey, this is what I don't like. I'm not sure if we have used it this year, Allison.
It's hard with COVID, right? Because we don't have a physical jar. We tried having a form. There is a form available that people could submit, a Google form, but they'd have to ask someone what's the link to the form, and that would make it not anonymous anymore, at least to the person that they asked. So it's a little harder. It's a little harder this year. So
in past years, we've had a discussion jar where if you had any sort of problem, you could put it in that jar, and at collection, like Naveen said, we would go through the discussion jar and we would try to work through the problems. And this is a way where you could give anything you're feeling and talk about it freely without having everybody's attention solely on you. And it was a good way. I feel like we've had a lot of good discussions through that. And any type of problem that somebody may have had, I feel like we were able to discuss and resolve pretty well without anybody's getting their feelings hurt or anything of that sort.
Yeah, I agree. It works really well. And then when you have sort of the more individual conflicts, that they typically don't rise up past the mentors, right? And so when we hear about something like that, so each mentor will talk to the person who they work with about what the situation is and how they feel about it, and and we'll try and help the person who's who's been wronged, or the person who's maybe done the damage, or done something that's hurtful, help them understand what it is that they've done that's hurtful, and help them, see how that came to be, and then to make amends for that, to the extent that they can, to the extent that we can help kids, be forgiving, on both sides. And the same thing for the kid who was wronged, help them forgive the other person. to the best that we can. Kids don't always, you know, like agree that, you know, it went down the way the other person said, you know, and so there can be, but, you know, we try and help kids smooth it over and understand that, well, we're in this space together. You know, you don't have to like each other, you know, you don't have to like everybody here, but we are in the space together, and you do need to be respectful to people as human beings and to property and things. And, you know, we do it as gently and as respectfully as we can in working with kids. And I don't know that I've never engaged with you guys on that. So, yeah. So, but it does happen here and there. But
you
it
guys
never
don't
really
know
does.
about it because you weren't involved in any of these disputes.
Yes.
I don't think I remember a time where I've witnessed or heard of a really big argument in PLC.
Yeah.
That got super big in my 3 years of being there. I
had a semi big argument happen in the middle of one of my classes last year. And it was, I was mentoring both the kids. So, you know, I talked to the one, I talked to the other, and then instead of like continuing to be a liaison between them, I just kind of encouraged the one to work it out with the other one, and then the other one to work out, and they did, you know, the next class. So
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm frozen or if Gabby was frozen there for me.
You're okay. You're okay.
I'm okay. All
You
right.
broke up for a moment, but you're okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But they ended up working. I was actually surprised at how well they did work it out. But I think that's often what happens is we don't get to the level of like, let's have a sit down and physically be a mediator, because the mentors are talking to each kid on each side of it, encouraging them to work it out with each other on their own.
Yeah. It's really a lovely, it's a lovely life. I have to say, as a teacher, to be in the space with you guys, it's just really terrific. You know, because it's fun and caring. And go ahead, Carly.
Yeah.
I don't think that there were ever, like, I don't remember there being any really bad times when I was going either. So I think back then too was not as bad. I mean, there were times when, like, you know, I know that there was one time when me and Darius, Aurora, and Maya, were the four of us, had an argument thing involving something that was going on, like, with friends of mine stuff, and it's a long thing, but like me and those friends were disagreeing on that situation. And I might have talked to Katie about it, I don't remember, but I never brought that thing up to the group because I didn't have to. It was just a thing that, like, the four of us weren't agreeing on this situation that was happening with another friend of mine outside of PLC.
I think if there is any drama at PLC, it isn't brought up to the whole group's attention. It's usually handled quietly and between the people who are actually involved in it. But like, again, in my 3 years of being there, I've never witnessed anything huge.
Yeah.
Any other questions? I'm just cognizant of the time. We're a little after 8. Anybody have any other questions that they'd like to get answered? All right. Well, I just want to thank you guys just so much for taking the time to come out. Really, really awesome. You know, much appreciated. And thank you. And for just offering your thoughts. And it just really, you guys are terrific. And super appreciated. I'm sorry, Andrew, I guess couldn't make it. But you know, you'll, I guess, have to come back sometime. And because Andrew's got a really lovely story as well. So, all righty. Well, thank you all, and appreciate your coming out. And we'll talk soon. We will. I can say also bye-bye. We'll follow up with some an email with some resources and things on homeschooling and self-directed education, and with a link to the video, the recording of this, in case you want to share that with anyone. All right. Well, take care. All right.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Allison, did you mention that you guys are looking for an ASL teacher?
I did.
Could I volunteer as one?
Yes, you could.
Yes.
I would love to do that.